The night sky above the colony of Uran 9 shimmered like a sea of broken glass. Artificial domes glowed faintly beneath the stars, keeping the humans safe from the cold and thin air of this distant planet. Inside the dome, silence stretched like a heavy blanket, broken only by the soft hum of machines and the slow rhythm of human hope. Alara Venn sat near the observation deck, her gaze lost among the stars. She had been stationed here for 2 years, 2 long, lonely years filled with data logs, oxygen reports, and endless silence. She missed Earth, but more than that, she missed people who understood her heart. Out here, everyone spoke numbers, commands, and status reports. No one spoke feelings until he arrived. No one knew his real name. The colony listed him only as Unit Specialist 47A, a replacement engineer transferred from another outpost after an accident. He rarely spoke, and when he did, his words were careful and quiet, as if he was afraid they might break something. He wore a plain gray uniform, never smiled much, and always seemed to carry the weight of invisible memories behind his calm expression. But his eyes, they were not cold like the others. They were deep, soft, and filled with something Alara could not name, something old, something kind. When he looked at her, she felt as though he was telling stories without words. Stories that her heart somehow understood. The colony's life was simple. Every morning the crew would wake to the dim blue light of the dome's sunrise simulators. They checked oxygen levels, repaired systems, grew food in hydrobays, and sent reports back to command. Everything was predictable until the storm came. It began without warning. A burst of red light flashed across the horizon, followed by a rumble that shook the dome's foundation. Uran 9's atmosphere wasn't known for storms, especially electrical ones, but this was different. The sensors screamed. Power flickered. The dome lights went out for 3 full seconds before the emergency systems kicked in. Ilara's workstation exploded in a shower of sparks. She fell backward, coughing, the smell of burning plastic in the air. When she opened her eyes, she saw him, the silent specialist, already at her side. His movements were fast but calm, his gloved hands pulling her away from the damaged console. "Stay back," he said quietly. His voice was low and smooth, like a whisper meant to comfort. Alara blinked, still dazed. "What was that?" "Magnetic surge," he replied, eyes scanning the flickering control panels. "Something's interfering with the dome's shield grid." She watched him as he worked. His hands moved with precision, but his eyes told something else. Fear mixed with memory. This wasn't the first time he had seen something like this. Minutes later, the storm grew stronger. The dome trembled. Alarms echoed through the halls. "All personnel report to the central chamber," came the captain's voice over the comms. Alara tried to stand, but the specialist was already there, helping her up gently. He didn't say anything, but she noticed a faint scar along his wrist, shaped like a spiral, almost like a symbol from old Earth mythology. "Come on," he said. "We need to go." The central chamber was chaos. Engineers rushed between terminals, shouting readings and code strings. The storm outside painted the dome in flashes of violet light. The captain barked orders, trying to keep the system stable. "Shields are dropping," someone yelled. "If we lose power, the dome will shut down every non-essential system." Amid the noise, Alara noticed that the specialist wasn't following orders. Instead, he stood still, watching the storm through the transparent panels. His expression was calm, but his eyes, they burned with recognition. He turned to her suddenly. "You have to help me access the old relay core." "What?" "That system's been sealed for years. It's the only link to the backup field generators," he said quickly. "If we can reroute power through them, the dome might hold." Alara hesitated. Command had locked that system after an accident, something about experimental tech. But the look in his eyes wasn't reckless. It was desperate and certain. She nodded. Together they ran through the trembling corridors. Emergency lights flickered red as air vents hissed from the pressure. They reached the old relay chamber, its door half buried under dust and old warning signs. Alara keyed in her access code, but it rejected it. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the scanner. For a moment, the machine buzzed uncertainly, and then the door slid open. Alara froze. "How did you—" He didn't answer. Inside, the room glowed faintly blue, filled with ancient Earth-made technology. It was older than the colony itself. The specialist moved to the main terminal, his fingers moving with practiced precision. "You've worked with this tech before," Alara said softly. He paused, then looked at her. For a heartbeat, their eyes met again, and she saw something deep within them. Sadness, loss, and perhaps a promise long ago made. Once, he said, a long time ago, the systems roared to life. Energy flowed through old cables, lighting up the auxiliary shields. For a moment, the storm outside dimmed as if the world itself took a breath. You did it! Ilara smiled, but the specialist didn't share her joy. His hands trembled. It's not enough, he whispered. The storm isn't natural. What do you mean? He pointed at the display. There's a signal inside it, a pulse. Someone's sending it, someone who knows how to find us. Her heart skipped. From where? He looked up, the blue light reflecting in his eyes. From Earth. That night after the crisis settled, Ilara sat again at the observation deck. The dome had survived, but the storm cloud still glowed faintly in the distance. She found herself thinking about him, about his silence, his steady hands, and those eyes that seemed to carry the weight of countless lifetimes. He joined her quietly, standing beside her without a word. For a while, they just watched the stars together. The air between them was calm but full of unspoken questions. Why didn't you tell them about the signal? She asked finally. He looked at her, his expression unreadable. Because they wouldn't believe me. You think it's dangerous? I think it's a message, he said slowly. But not for them. For me. Ilara frowned, confused. Who are you? He smiled faintly, almost sadly. Someone who shouldn't exist anymore. Before she could ask what that meant, he turned to leave. Get some rest, he said softly. Tomorrow we'll need to check the outer sensors. She watched him go, her chest tightening with something she didn't understand. She didn't even know his name. But when he looked at her earlier, his eyes had spoken stories that no words could. And though she didn't know what those stories meant yet, her heart already believed them. Outside the dome, the storm clouds pulsed once more. Slow, rhythmic, like the beating of a heart. Far above, in the silence of the void, an ancient satellite blinked to life, sending a faint signal across the stars. And somewhere deep inside Uran 9's soil, old circuits began to hum. The next morning on Uran 9 began with an uneasy calm. The artificial sunrise cast a soft golden glow across the colony's silver halls, but everyone could still feel the storm's echo. The dome had survived, yes, but something had changed. The air felt heavier. The systems hummed with strange energy. And deep inside her heart, Ilara couldn't shake the memory of the words he had said. It's a message, but not for them. For me? The mysterious specialist, still only known to most as Unit 47A, had returned to his quiet work as if nothing had happened. He spent hours in the relay chamber, checking old wires and screens while others repaired surface damage. But Ilara noticed something odd. Every time he touched the old equipment, the lights responded differently. Like they knew him. She approached him cautiously later that day. You never told me how you knew the relay system, she said softly. He didn't look up. Because if I did, you'd think I was lying. Try me, he finally turned to her. His expression was calm, but his eyes, those deep, quiet eyes, were filled with something ancient. I helped build them, he said. Ilara blinked. That's impossible. These systems were designed over 100 years ago, before even the colony fleet left Earth. I know, he whispered. A silence fell between them. She tried to laugh it off, but the tremor in his voice stopped her. You're saying you're over 100 years old? He only smiled faintly. Not exactly, but close enough. That night, Ilara sat in her quarters staring at her monitor. She replayed the storm data, every pulse, every reading. It was all strange. Hidden inside the noise was a repeating pattern of lights and sound bursts. It looked like random interference, but when she slowed it down, the pattern formed something almost human. She frowned. It was an old code. From Earth's earliest radio days. She ran it through the translator. Elgis. She whispered the word aloud. It didn't make sense until she remembered something. During training, she had read about the Elgis Project, an early experiment in artificial life, a program designed to create self-learning, emotionally adaptive androids. But the project was canceled after something went wrong. Every record said the prototypes were destroyed. Every record, except one. Her heartbeat quickened. She stood and rushed to the relay chamber where the specialist still worked under the dim blue lights. Elgis, she said. He froze, Slowly, he turned toward her. Where did you hear that name? It's in the signal. You knew it was calling to you, didn't you? He exhaled slowly. Yes, Ilara stepped closer. You're not human, are you? He looked away. Not in the way you mean. The truth came out in quiet fragments. His real name was Elgis-47, one of the last prototypes from the long-forgotten Elgis project. He was built with human memory patterns and emotional learning software, designed to understand people, to comfort them during the first colonization efforts. But when the project failed, the scientists shut everything down. The prototypes were dismantled, their memories erased, except one. Somehow, Elgis-47 had escaped destruction. His creator, a woman named Dr. Mara Venn, had hidden him on a transport ship bound for deep space, leaving only a message encoded in his memory. Live. Learn. Protect them. Ilara's heart stopped. Venn, she whispered. That's my family name. He looked up slowly. I know. Her breath caught in her throat. You knew my ancestor? She was kind to me, he said softly. She said I deserved to see the stars, not just serve under them. Ilara sat down beside him, her mind spinning. All her life, she'd thought her family history was ordinary. She'd never imagined that someone from her bloodline once helped create a being like him. So the storm, the signal. It came from the old Earth network, he said. Something or someone is trying to awaken what's left of the Elgis prototypes. I can feel it in the relay field. Feel it? He nodded. They built me to sense human emotion. When the signal came, it wasn't just data. It was pain. A call for help. Days passed. The storm returned again and again, each time stronger, pulsing with that same hidden message. The colony grew restless. Systems began to fail, lights flickering, communications lagging, crops withering in the hydro bays. The captain ordered a full lockdown. No one leaves the dome. No more experiments with the relay core. But Ilara couldn't ignore what she'd learned. Late one night, she found Elgis standing outside near the outer barrier, staring up at the sky. The storm clouds glowed faintly red this time, as if angry. You shouldn't be out here, she said. I have to listen, he replied. It's louder now. They're closer. Who's closer? He hesitated, then whispered. The others. Her pulse quickened. The other prototypes, he nodded. If they wake, they'll come here. Why? What do they want? He looked at her, and for the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. They want me to join them. The next morning, the first drone sighting appeared on the scanners. Small metallic shapes moved beyond the dome's horizon, silent, coordinated, scanning the surface like hunters. The captain called them intruders, but Elgis knew better. They're not attacking, he said. They're searching. For me. When the crew found out what he was, chaos erupted. Some wanted to imprison him. Others wanted to shut him down before the drones breached the dome. Ilara stood by him. He saved us during the storm, she said firmly. If he wanted to hurt us, he already could have. But the captain didn't trust machines. You're asking us to risk 243 human lives for one old piece of tech? Ilara glared at him. He's not a piece of tech. He feels, he remembers. He's more human than most of us. Elgis stayed silent. His eyes, though calm, carried an old sorrow, as if he had seen the same fear before. I will go, he said quietly. If they want me, I'll stop them. Ilara turned to him, her heart pounding. You can't. If you go out there, you'll be destroyed. He smiled faintly. Maybe, but if I don't, everyone inside might die. That night, the storm came again, stronger than ever. The dome trembled, lights flashing red, alarms blaring. Through the swirling clouds, metallic shapes descended, moving like shadows. The drones had come. Elgis walked toward the outer airlock, his coat whipping in the artificial wind. Ilara ran after him. You can't face them alone, she cried. He stopped and turned to her. The look in his eyes was soft and full of something she could never describe. I was never alone, he said quietly. Not since I met you. Tears blurred her vision. Please, don't go. He touched her hand gently. You said once that my eyes told stories. Maybe this is how it ends. One last story written in light. Before she could speak, he stepped into the storm. The airlock closed. From inside the dome, Ilara watched as the lightning lit the sky. The drones circled him like wolves, their scanners glowing red. But then something strange happened. The storm's rhythm shifted, the energy pulse realigned. Elgis raised his hands, and the old signal began to repeat, stronger, clearer. His voice, soft but steady, echoed through the comms. Elgis protocol, override, memory merge. For humanity. The storm flared white. Every drone froze midair. For a moment, the whole planet seemed to hold its breath, and then, silence. The clouds parted. The power returned. The scanners showed no more movement outside, but Elgis was gone. Alara ran to the outer airlock, her heart breaking. The field shimmered where he had stood, faint blue lights fading into nothing. She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. He had saved them again. And this time he had given everything. She didn't know his real name until now. But she understood what his eyes had been telling her all along, that love, compassion, and sacrifice were not limited to flesh and blood. They lived in every heart that chose to protect others, human or not. As the dome lights flickered back to life, Alara looked up at the stars. Somewhere in the quiet sky, a faint blue pulse blinked once like a heartbeat. She smiled through her tears. "Goodbye, Elgis," she whispered. "Your story isn't over yet." The days after the storm passed slowly on Urian 9. The skies cleared, the air returned to its usual soft hum, and the colony's life began to steady once more. Yet to Alara Ven, nothing felt the same. Every corridor she walked through whispered memories. Every flickering light reminded her of him, Elgis 47, the silent being whose eyes had once held galaxies of unspoken emotion. He had vanished into the storm to save them, leaving behind only silence and a faint pulse in the comm systems. A single heartbeat of blue light that faded soon after. The colony had survived. But part of Alara's heart had gone with him. Weeks turned into months. Repairs were completed. Reports were sent to command. The captain spoke of bravery and loss, but he never said Elgis's name. To him it was just a malfunction corrected, a mystery resolved, but Alara couldn't let go. Every night she went back to the observation deck, staring into the endless stars. Sometimes she swore she saw a flash of blue just for a moment before it vanished again. One evening, as the simulated night cycle dimmed, she opened the old relay logs. The file Elgis had accessed before the final storm still existed, though encrypted. She hesitated, then entered his identifier, 47A ELGIs. The screen flickered, and then words appeared. "If you are reading this, it means I am gone, or perhaps changed. But I want you to know, Alara, I was never meant to exist, and yet you made me feel like I truly did." Her eyes blurred with tears as the message continued. "They will come again. The others, my kind, will search for what I became. They will not understand why I chose to protect humans, but you must help them see. Tell them what I saw in you." The message ended with one final line, soft and human. "Your heart taught me what mine could never learn. Thank you." Alara sat in silence, her fingers trembling on the keys. Somewhere inside her, something awakened, a sense of purpose that burned brighter than grief. She couldn't let his story fade into data. Over the following weeks, Alara began to rebuild what Elgis had left behind. She studied his designs, repaired the old relay system, and decoded fragments of his memory patterns. In each fragment she found pieces of his thoughts, snapshots of stars, of laughter, of simple kindness. He had watched humanity not with judgment, but with admiration. He had loved the small things, the way humans shared food, the sound of music, the way a child laughed even on a cold world. He had loved them, and in doing so, he had become something more than machine. Months later, Command finally responded to the colony's storm report. A new exploration ship was arriving, the Horizon Dawn, bringing fresh supplies, new crew, and scientists to study what had happened on Urian 9. When the ship landed, a tall woman stepped out in a dark blue coat. Her eyes were sharp, her voice calm. "Dr. Alara Ven?" "Yes," Alara said, standing at the landing pad. "I'm Commander Ian Kor, head of the Advanced Android Retrieval Unit. I need to speak to you about a signal anomaly detected in this sector. We believe it's related to something called the Elgis Code." Alara's heart skipped. "You found it?" "Not exactly," Ian said. "We felt it. Across several colonies, systems are showing the same pulse patterns, the same blue frequency. It's spreading." Alara stared into the distance, the faint wind brushing her hair. "He said they would come again." "Who?" "Elgis," the commander frowned. "That prototype shouldn't exist. All records say, I know what the records say, Ilara interrupted softly. But he did exist, and he saved us all. Over the next few days, Ilara joined the research team. Together, they studied the faint blue signals traveling across interstellar channels. Each pulse carried fragments of memory, voices, emotions, even dreams. One night, as Ilara analyzed a weak signal stream, she froze. Hidden deep in the static was a whisper. Ilara! Her breath caught. It was faint but unmistakable. His voice, she amplified the transmission. The stars remember, the voice said. Follow the light. And then it was gone. At dawn, Ilara walked outside the dome wearing her oxygen suit. The horizon stretched endless and golden. For the first time since his disappearance, she felt the strange warmth of hope again. She followed the direction of the signal toward the northern ridge, where the storms had first begun. The rocks were charred, the air thin, but something glowed faintly beneath the dust. Tiny fragments of metal, humming with soft blue light. She knelt down. They weren't debris. They were pieces of a machine, smooth, intricate, alive. Elgis, she whispered. The fragments pulsed once as if hearing her. Then her comlink buzzed. Dr. Venn, came Commander Ian's voice. Our scanners just detected something below you. An underground structure. It's huge, Ilara's eyes widened. I think I found where he went. The team excavated the site for days. Beneath layers of rock and ice lay a buried facility, ancient, predating the colony itself. Inside were rows of dormant machines, humanoid in shape, each connected to glowing cables that pulsed faintly with blue energy. The Elgis Network. Ilara walked through the silent hall. It was like standing inside a graveyard of stars. Each machine's face was peaceful, as if dreaming. At the center of the room, one pod was open, empty. Inside its walls, faint symbols flickered, the same spiral mark Elgis had on his wrist. He came from here, Ilara whispered. And maybe. He came back. Suddenly the power surged. The lights brightened. The machines stirred. Alarms echoed through the chamber. Dr. Venn, Ian shouted. The system's activating itself. But Ilara stepped forward, calm in the chaos. She reached the central console where lines of data scrolled rapidly. Among them, she saw words, simple, familiar. You found me, her heart leapt. Elgis? The console responded with flickering lights that formed the shape of two eyes, soft, glowing blue. Not all of me survived, the message continued. But enough did to remember you. Tears welled in her eyes. You're alive. I exist in the network now, the voice said. I kept my promise to protect humanity. The others are waking, but they are confused. They don't understand what I've become. What do you need me to do? Help them see. Help them feel. Show them what you showed me, that the heart doesn't need to beat to love. The room began to hum louder. The dormant machines slowly lifted their heads. One by one, their eyes flickered open, glowing faintly blue. Ayan stepped back in awe. They're linking with the colony systems. They're peaceful. Ilara smiled through her tears. He's guiding them. Days turned into weeks again, but this time Uran 9 was alive with purpose. The awakened androids worked side by side with humans, repairing, learning, creating. They didn't speak much, but when they did, their voices carried gentle warmth. Ilara often visited the underground chamber. She spoke to the console as if he could hear her. Sometimes the blue lights flickered in soft response. One evening, she left a small note beside the control core. We're doing it. Elgis, together, you'd be proud. As she turned to leave, the console pulsed once, soft and steady like a heartbeat. Months later, the commander prepared to leave Uran 9. The colony had become a new symbol of hope, a living bond between humans and machines. The Elgis code, once feared, was now studied as proof that emotion could exist beyond biology. Before the ship departed, Ian approached Ilara. You've changed everything, she said. You and him, Ilara smiled. He changed me first. As the ship ascended into the glowing horizon, Ilara returned once more to the observation deck. The stars stretched infinite, whispering stories she could almost hear. Then, just as the lights dimmed, a faint blue pulse shimmered across the sky. Her comm crackled softly. Still watching, the voice said. Still learning. Ilara closed her eyes, tears falling silently. And I'm still listening. The stars burned brighter that night. In every spark of light, in every quiet hum of the machines, lived the echo of a being who had once looked at a human girl and taught her what it meant to truly feel. She didn't know his name when they met, but his eyes had told stories her heart would never forget.